low Earth orbit satellite constellation, and for the first time in history, providing standard narrowband IoT connectivity, right? And we believe that we are at the brink of a global revolution and that our satellite NB IoT connectivity will be the tipping point. So we often describe ourselves as the unique satellite telecom operator connecting the 5G IoT devices of the world from space. Now, the predominant reason why we set out to do this is because today, if we take a look at the Earth, there's quite a big problem in terms of cellular coverage. Only 15% of the world's surface has cellular coverage, meaning that sectors and companies that want to digitize in the remaining 85% today are left to two main alternatives. On the cellular side, of course, they can deploy their own neural networks, and on the satellite side, they have to subscribe to current satellite services, which really don't provide a scalable solution, right? So up until today, the satellite world has had one predominant way of offering connectivity, which is what we refer to as the walled garden, right? So customers, of course, the system is based on a proprietary protocol, meaning customers not only have to pay expensive monthly costs for connectivity, but they also have to invest in the full end-to-end solution provided by that one company. The company launches a constellation and has to, of course, come up with an end-to-end solution. As soon as the customers wants to scale, it becomes quite cost prohibitive. The total cost of ownership is quite high. And at the same time, customers get locked in with that one provider. So if by any reason the company happens to go bust, then all the investment the customer has made into acquiring the particular hardware that works with that one particular company also disappears. And this is why Sateliot has taken a completely different approach. So on the one hand, we've gone fully standard. We're the first low Earth orbit constellation to implement 3GPP's release 17, okay? And that means that standard NB-IoT devices will be able to connect to our constellation. But we've gone a step further. Okay, the beauty of the service is not only offering satellite standard NB-IoT connectivity, it's merging both terrestrial and non-terrestrial networks under one unique service so that the same device, the same chip, the same module, the same SIM card can alternate between cell towers where they are available and fall back onto our constellation when out of cellular coverage. And of course, this is much related to our business model. Sateliot is fully B2B. The way we go to market is via roaming agreements with MVNOs and MNOs, so that Pod Group, for example, can offer to their customers a global NB-IoT service, merging terrestrial NB-IoT and non-terrestrial NB-IoT. And that is why we're very, very happy to have partnered up with Pod Group to provide the hybrid, unique narrowband IoT global connectivity service. Now, of course, this is 3GPP, right? Which by definition also means that we're not alone. This is not something we have been doing, hidden away from the world. This is actually the culmination of an ecosystem move towards making standard satellite connectivity a reality. So all of these companies that we can see here on my slide are present within the 3GPP, working exclusively on narrowband IoT for space. So we have many of the infrastructure companies, a bunch of chip vendors, 90% of chip vendors actually, 45% of telecom operators present, 95% of space companies, 80% of device manufacturers, and multiple companies which are there because they want to be up to date and implement the solution as fast as possible. Now, what does this mean for customers? So Sateliot focuses on connectivity only, because we don't have to do anything else, right? We don't have to touch, sell, or produce hardware, because the compatible chipsets to our constellations will come from Qualcomm, will come from MediaTek, will come from HiSilicon and Altair. The compatible modules from Quectel, Fibocom, Murata, U-Blox, Nordic, etc. So customers for the first time will be able to purchase off-the-shelf NB-IoT products from the vendors they have been doing so their whole lives, and those products will be compatible to both terrestrial networks and non-terrestrial networks. Now, our unique service will allow for the massive adoption of IoT everywhere and for everybody. First of all, it's a standard license frequency, the same device. So a lot of the work that has been done within the 3GPP has been focused on ensuring that there's no need to change the hardware on the user equipment, right? It's all about a protocol adaptation. It's all about updating the firmware of existing modules to release 17. which means we're speaking about 23 dBm, 0 dBi antennas. We're speaking about the same exact form factor, the same little device that today connects to cell towers on Earth. With the new firmware, we'll be able to connect to both cellular towers and non-terrestrial networks. As far as the operators go, because we're doing roaming agreements with operators all over the Earth, the final customer will not have to change the operator. With the same SIM card they use today, will just be a visiting profile within that SIM card, and that device will automatically be able to switch depending on availability of networks. And that is what we call the dual modality of the service, allowing the device to switch from satellite to cell towers. Our price target will be around $1 per month per device, flat rate. And as we scale up our constellation, we will be bringing down that pricing. And of course, it's global outdoor bidirectional connectivity. So pole to pole. You can be in Brazil, you can be in Australia, you can be in the middle of the ocean, in Alaska, wherever you are, our connectivity will reach you. Now, of course, we're going to be commercial early next year, right? Q2 next year. What we've launched a few months ago is what we refer to Sateliot's Early Adopters Program. The idea of our Early Adopters Program is giving early access to IoT solution provider companies to our constellation. Okay, so essentially, we'll give you up to free 100 lines of connectivity for testing, up to 6 months. You can continue using your operator, so it's quite easy, because we're doing global roaming agreements. We will support you with technical integrations and interoperability tests. And of course, you'll be a very influential company. You'll be part of the satellite IoT standard community. Now, our early access program is about to close. It's limited to the first 1,000 companies, and we're approaching that figure. So again, early testing, and of course, because we're quite close to the chip and the module vendors, our early adopter partners will also be the first ones with commercial NTN modules, allowing you to be the first movers in your market. Unparalleled solutions to your customers allow them to deploy devices where they haven't been able to do so, and of course, new use cases. And for our EAP partners, as DFM and No Fence will happy to tell you, there is special conditions on testing and on later commercial agreements. And of course, a unique brand positioning, 100% of the global coverage. Now, if any companies out there are interested in our EAP, when the webinar finishes, you'll receive a quick questionnaire, and you can just check a box and we'll send you more information in the EAP and how to apply. Okay, that will be done automatically. Now, on the agro side, so we believe that agriculture will be one of the main sectors benefiting from our solution. I won't get into the specifics of it because we have experts here on the table that will tell you more about use cases and the challenges that AgriTech currently has. But if we take a look at the macro scenario of today, right, with the increase in world population, we will have to produce more food, hopefully using less or the same resources, right? The demand for food is increasing, meaning that we have to also increase the amount of calories available for consumption. The cost of inputs for farmers is also increasing, which means hopefully that they'll get better margins so they can actually pay for those inputs. And the pressure on sustainability has also increased dramatically. Therefore, the hope is that farmers and agro producers are able to adopt sustainable practice. Without a global connectivity service, all of this becomes very, very hard at any significant scale, right? I mean, if we take out the USA, for example, which is among the top 3 global agricultural producers, and for sure, probably the most advanced one, only a quarter of farms currently use connected equipment and devices. Brazil as well. I mean, Brazil is the 3rd biggest producer of agro on Earth, and only 27% of the agricultural terrain has some sort of connectivity, which means that 3/4 of that sector has a very time going through any significant digitalization because of the lack of connectivity. We at Sateliot and our partners really believe that merging both terrestrial networks with non-terrestrial networks under one standard, cost-effective and accessible solution will allow for the agriculture sector to go through significant digitalization. Thank you very much for joining the webinar.
Thank you, Steph. Thank you for your time. I think we could pass to Michael, so you could share with us a bit of your company and what you guys can bring.
Sure.
Let's see your screen.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we have you, Mike.
Hello, well, hello all. As I introduce myself, my name is Michael Chakal, IoT Sales Director at Pod Group. And if there's any message I want you to remember, well, it's just the title. It's G&D, Pod Group and Sateliot partner to deliver truly global NB-IoT coverage. Let me tell you a bit more. So, Pod Group, we've been in the business of delivering global data connectivity for 20 years. So actually 23 years, we just don't count the 2 years of the pandemic. Yeah, we were working, that's a joke. But it's not just about delivering the connectivity, it's about doing it without the complexity. We are an MVNO, and with POPs for geo redundancy across the world. We have 6 offices, and we're very honored that G&D Gzik and Devrient acquired us a year ago. One of our differentiators are the fact that we have more than 600 networks across 185 countries. And most importantly, that we enable enterprise to run their own networks. So we're enabling other networks. But who is Gzik and Devrient? Some of you may know, but actually what a lot of people don't know is that they are the inventors of the SIM card. 30 years ago, this year, Gzik and Devrient invented the SIM card, and nearly 10 years ago, they invented eSIM management. And they're one of the largest vendors of SIM modules and SIM technology to all the mobile network operators, wireless carriers, and virtual operators across the world. Together with Pod Group, we're delivering solutions directly to enterprise. So Pod Group being an MVNO and the first enterprise network operator is able to deliver global solutions for IoT. And what does an enterprise network operator mean? Well, we allow enterprise to own the connectivity components. So they're able to offer flexibility to control their own IoT devices, the connectivity, often simplifying their manufacturing processes to include a single SIM to enable their IoT devices to work out of the box wherever they go, a clear differentiator. Our technology is agnostic, so we can offer you the network as a service, interoperable, secure end-to-end connectivity, and we enable seamless roaming. And very importantly, between public and private networks. So we also, as I mentioned, deliver private networks for enterprise, but most importantly, the same SIM that is on your private network will roam seamlessly onto the public networks. Very simple to use, and most importantly, it's all network as a service. Pay as you go, only pay for what you use. So almost no barrier to entry. Set yourself up and start using it. You, the enterprise, take care of your telecoms needs. So the enterprise network operator, as a single entity, offers you a simple, scalable, and secure platform to manage all your connectivity needs. Regardless of the vertical in which your business is in, you will also be able to enable your own connectivity needs. One SIM, one global network, all delivered as a service. You pay for what you use. In terms of coverage, we're very proud to say we truly have global coverage, whether it is terrestrial or non-terrestrial. Only well, as you can see from the map, 3 countries that are offer poor coverage in their own country are those where we don't have the connectivity. So whether it's 2G, 3G, LTE, LTM, or NB-IoT, we will be able to provide that for you, of course, dependent on the operator's capabilities in each country. Now, NB-IoT, more specifically for this webinar, and because we're emphasizing the need of NB-IoT for the agribusiness, delivers greater penetration, lowest cost, low power operation for more than 10 years, very easy to integrate, and offering billions of connections per cell. NB-IoT is very powerful for agribusiness among other technologies. However, it has its challenges. Terrestrial operators don't necessarily provide the NB-IoT service all over the world. It's a bit of a catch-22 because they're concerned about launching NB-IoT capabilities when there aren't any devices that use them, or vice versa. However, I must admit that we've seen a lot of inquiries for NB-IoT devices because of their promise of low power consumption and independence. So it is important, even though we are able to provide some terrestrial coverage, to be able to increase that coverage for the rest of the world. Agribusiness itself has also its own IoT challenge, I should say. They are more likely to use NB-IoT because of their devices are used remotely, but the current patchy nature of the NB-IoT networks mean that they have to work with multiple providers. Terrestrial networks provide poor coverage in remote areas, and importantly, NB-IoT devices are notoriously challenging to update in the field. So they're difficult to be future-proof. And scaling and the global network access can be challenging. So scaling connectivity globally poses operational security challenges. There's also limited know-how of resources to operate a telco network within the agribusiness. But all these have a solution. We do, Pod Group does have a solution for agribusiness in terms of providing a SIM module for their IoT devices to be able to update their IoT devices, even NB-IoT devices without SMS capability, to be able to update those in the field. Because we know that technology is always advancing, and there will be future profiles that we would want to add. And we, in Pod Group, as the enterprise network operator, enable that. So we enable a single platform that is future-proof for IoT and agribusiness. So together, Pod Group, Gizek Devrient company, Sateliot, and Gizek Devrient are delivering a truly global NB-IoT coverage. Together, there won't be anywhere in the world that will not be covered with this service, and our customers will be able to roam and conduct their business effectively. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. That's quite impressive what you guys can offer. Let's see if we can proceed, and then we do a roundup of questions on the end. Let's proceed with Nick. Nick.
Great. Are we live?
We're live. We can see your screen.
Brilliant. Good day again, everyone. I will be focusing in on precision irrigation for effective crop production and how IoT technology will play a critical role in furthering this field, especially for DFM. Water is an increasingly rare resource. Looking at our planet from space, water looks abundant, and it's hard to believe that it could ever be considered scarce. 70% of the Earth's surface is covered in it. Only 3% of the Earth's water is fresh water. And of that fresh water, only 1% is suitable for drinking, bathing, and irrigating our farms. So how can we conserve this resource? Agriculture is the #1 consumer of fresh water. So one of the ways to reduce water usage is through precision irrigation. There's 3 main goals when it comes to precision irrigation, and those are maximizing crop production by irrigating to the plant's requirements, and minimizing the costs by reducing water usage and electricity consumption, and then effective use of fertilizer, which I'm sure everyone's seen the skyrocketing prices of fertilizer recently. How we achieve this is through implementation of soil moisture monitoring devices and smart irrigation control systems. A bit about DFM. We're an established agri-technology business in South Africa. For the last 20 years, DFM has been innovating within the agricultural sector, producing a large variety of sensors and software. When combining these sensors and software, we form a solution that allows farmers to achieve effective water use and assist with sustainable irrigation and lowering carbon footprints. The soil moisture sensors we produce are used worldwide due to their reliability, accuracy, and practicality. And that accuracy is confirmed by NASA, that actually users of our sensors. A few notable clients that we service include Nestle and their dairy farms. Netafim and Sateliot use our soil moisture sensors globally in their solutions for farmers. And NASA, JPL, and the WMO use our sensors to verify the satellite moisture data from the SMAP project, where they map the Earth's soil moisture. What are we actually monitoring with our sensors? Soil is relatively unchanging. We have a mineral and an organic component that takes a really long time to change. The part we can influence in the short term is the relation between air and water in the soil. And we need to manage this relationship for optimal plant growth. The air part of that portion is actually critical for plant growth, since roots need to absorb oxygen as well as moisture. How we do this with our soil moisture sensors, our sensors are logging data continuously, and so we can visualize this data on a graph. That gives us insight into daily water usage of the plant. For instance, here on this graph I've got showing, you'll see there's 4 irrigation events taking place. And that second irrigation, afterwards you see almost a staircase forming on that graph. And I'll refer to it as steps. During the daytime, when your plant's active, it's using water, and so we have a decrease on that graph. And during the night, the plant is inactive and not using water, and so we see it flattens out. And so we can use that to determine what the plant is using per day and to optimize the irrigation for the best water usage per day and avoid plant stress. We can also monitor deeper soils with our sensors by separating profiles into different management zones. Here, a root zone is the plant's active roots, commonly feeder roots in the upper soils, and that buffer zone is the deeper soils or survival routes. In this example, a farmer's been irrigating based on his feeder routes on the top soils. If you look at that root zone, it's running almost perfectly between our recommendations. That buffer zone, though, has dried out throughout the season. So if there's a heat wave that comes through, there could be big crop damage since there isn't enough water in reserve for the plant. Here's an inverse of the last example, a farmer who has been a bit too liberal with his water throughout the season. You can see only one occurrence where the plant actually becomes active and we start to see those steps where it's using water. And throughout the rest of the season, we just see spikes as he irrigates on the graph. And this is quite a lot of wasted water. A classic over-irrigation example. Using these methodologies, many farms have begun to use our soil moisture sensors to achieve carbon neutral goals. Skimmelkrans farm in South Africa is on track to be South Africa's first carbon neutral dairy farm and is using our probes to reduce water usage and electricity consumption when irrigating. Our sensors are often used in remote sites. For example, in the Kalahari Research Center, they're used to study mole rats, meerkats, and a host of other plant and animal species and their interaction with their soils and environment. And this site is truly remote. To put it in perspective, it sits in the middle of the Kalahari Desert against the South African border with Botswana. And the nearest town is Van Sailsrus, which is a tiny isolated place. And there's no cell phone signal out here at all. In a global perspective, only 34% of the world's landmass has access to cellular data. And in Africa and Australia, that figure drops to under 10%. So how does a researcher in the middle of the Kalahari get access to their data? The answer there is Sateliot. I think the previous discussions have put that into perspective, how we can get that coverage. In agriculture as well, many clients are also remote. Here along the Orange River in Namibia, clients are pumping 1 million liters of water a day to thousands of hectares of crops. And the nearest cell phone tower is over 60 kilometers away. There's no incentive to develop infrastructure to connect the few workers that live here. So how does a farmer trying to grow crops in the desert get access to accurate continuous moisture data? And the answer is again Sateliot, who can connect his sensors in the crops to the cell phone in his hand. So to summarize, I think we're on track to open an exciting horizon where a farmer can have access to critical data in real time, anywhere, all the time. Let us fill that gap of the 65% of landmass not covered by cellular connectivity. I want to thank the other speakers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you for your input, impressive input. Let's see if we can proceed. Trying to connect with Oscar. Oscar. Let's give 5 seconds to Oscar to see if he's able to present. let's wait 1 minute for Oscar. Everyone, feel free to start sending your questions, which we will be answering by the end of our 4 panelist speeches. You guys can see at your right bottom, you have a box for questions. We'll try to answer most of them. Okay, we can start with some questions for the moment. Stefan, are you here with us? We have a good question here for us. Will the device consume much more battery trying to find satellite? Sorry, Steph, you're muted. Wait 1 second.
Oh.
Now we have you.
Yeah,
Yes.
so on the battery consumption, I mean, that's a question we got all the time. So the work within, again, the 3GPP has been done to ensure that battery consumption is optimized. Now, the way we've done that, so on the user equipment side, the firmware will support PSM, right? And the way this is going to work, so power saving mode, the way this is going to work essentially is whenever the satellite passes over the device, the satellite will update the almanac within the device to allow that device to go off and on sleeping mode based on when the satellites will pass over the user equipment, right? And in that way, the device obviously is not awoken or awake all the time looking for the satellite so it can send and receive information. On the satellite side, we have extremely optimized antennas to make sure, of course, that the power output from the device is enough and that the device sends that same message the minimum amount of times until the satellite receives it. Okay.
Okay. Is it possible to use a regular LTE narrowband modem to connect your satellite network, like SIMCOM?
So the idea, yes. Okay, the answer is not today. Okay, the module vendors, the chip and the module vendors are currently integrating release 17. And the expectation is that by early next year, the major module vendors will be releasing or updating existing models with release 17 on terrestrial network.
Okay. Next one, this one I would say it would be for Michael. What IoT device design consideration should be taken to use narrowband IoT connectivity from Sateliot using pod group SIM modules? Let's see if we can listen to Michael's opinion. Michael?
Hello, are you able to see my screen?
No, we're hosting a round of questions.
Right, okay.
Have you listened to my question? I can repeat it.
Yes, it was a rather long one.
Okay. What IoT device design consideration should be taken to use narrowband IoT connectivity from Sateliot using pod group SIM modules?
Okay, well, one of the things you could use, one of the considerations you may want to take into account is future-proofing it. It's something that we discussed earlier. NB-IoT consumes low power, and therefore often it isn't equipped with an SMS capability, which is necessary often to activate it or change it over the air. And yet with pod group, you do not need to have that consideration. So existing NB-IoT devices without SMS capability can be updated over the air and are future-proof. So as and when new profiles become available, as and when Sateliot deliver more satellites, you would be able to upgrade to a better service without having to reach and change those SIM modules in your devices. So I hope that I've answered the question, but feel free to ask it again if I haven't.
Very well, thank you. Thank you. Let me read. What is the coverage zone of Sateliot service?
Yeah, so the thing about a low Earth orbit constellation is that from default with the one satellite, coverage is global, so pole to pole, right? The satellites, they move really quickly. They move at 27,000 kilometers per hour, which means that the same satellite essentially revisits the same device on Earth at least once a day. Now, coverage is global, but what is affected is the amount of times in a given day that devices can send and receive information. So the more satellites we launch, the more times in a day devices can send and receive information. We're speaking about a discontinuous connectivity, right? So with one satellite, it's once a day. With 5 satellites, it's on average, minimum twice a day, but on average every 6 hours. With 16 satellites, we're close to 1 hour connectivity. And the last step of our constellation will have 256 satellites, which will take us to near real-time connectivity once every single minute.
Okay.
I have a good one here.
Can I jump in and just add that from our perspective, even with just one satellite, often our customers would be very pleased just to have one thing per day as such, because having some connectivity where you would have none is very powerful in itself. So we're looking forward to being able for Sateliot to be launching more satellites, but even with just one satellite, the coverage would be very interesting and very useful. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Another one, can DFM sensors integrate with other AgriTech companies' products? I don't know, Nick. I think we have Nick here.
Yes.
You want me to repeat the question?
Yeah, I heard the question. Our sensors and data can all be integrated with other AgriTech products and softwares. We have an open API that can be called for all of our data. So it's very easy for us to share data across different systems and with other products.
Okay, thank you. Let me read another one. How often is data uploaded and available to access with the use of IoT satellite communication?
Yeah, so I think we sort of touched upon that on the last point, right? It all depends on the amount of satellites we've launched.
To build on that point that Michael made earlier, just that Kalahari example I had in my slideshow, this kind of data at the moment requires traveling to the site, manually downloading the data, and then traveling back. So the costs involved with that data collection method versus once a day or even longer is massive. So the connectivity of a small amount of connectivity is better than no connectivity for sure.
Good. We also have an attendee asking us what's the status for regulatory agreements in the Middle East. Okay.
I mean, obviously, so Sateliot has a team fully dedicated, which is actually called the Regulatory Affairs Team. Okay. So of course, we are working towards being fully global, and our team is currently negotiating with the list of priority countries we have right now. A few of them include the Middle East, and by our commercial launch early next year, we will have the Middle East in there. Okay.
what specific antenna can be used for communicating with Sateliot's satellite?
So, and this is it's an easy answer. It's the same antenna as used as for terrestrial narrowband IoT products, right? So no modification whatsoever has to be done on the device, on the hardware. We're speaking about 23 dBm, 0 dBi antennas. So the same antenna that today allows devices to connect to cell towers will be enough to allow that device to send information towards our satellites. Of course, we're speaking about outdoor coverage with line of sight to the sky. And when it's indoor applications, which typically happen in cities, that's where Pod Group comes in and will connect those
devices. Okay. We have a participant here asking what's the current narrowband IoT coverage in India. Steph, if you wanna help us.
So I cannot give you a precise data of the current coverage map of India. What I can tell you is that speaking to many IoT solution providers in India, the interest for satellite NB-IoT coverage is very big. And from that, we assume that the coverage is present, but it's probably not great, especially in rural and remote areas.
Okay. Let me ping another one. Carbon neutrality being a global focus, how do you see yourself taking a leading role in this space to be part of the solution? I would say this is for the FM. Nick?
So I think the focus on conserving resources, I think Steph mentioned it, and I did focus in on it as well, is critical when chasing these carbon neutral goals. It's a tough challenge in farming, but monitoring water usage and electricity usage associated with irrigation is critical when you're going for those kind of goals. So we definitely already are involved with farms trying to achieve these goals. And I think with these kind of connectivity options where real-time data can allow quick decisions on irrigation to cut out those excesses that are in place at the moment on most farm management, I think will be very helpful for getting to that position.
Thank you, Nick. Also a good one here. Does Sateliot own the satellites? We have a participant asking us. Let's see if we can have Steph.
His screen seems to have frozen.
Yes, I think Stefan just had some connectivity problems. Curious.
But he's not using connectivity.
He's not using our connectivity for sure.
Yeah.
That was flippant. We are dependent on the wireless carriers or the mobile operators' own connectivity currently. We are the orchestrators of these, and as an MVNO, we simplify the complexity and enable the seamless connectivity across multiple networks. Automate a lot of those transitions as devices cross countries, or as one signal from one operator drops, it's able to connect to another using the same SIM module.
Thank you, Michael.
That functionality of being able to switch between networks is very interesting for our kind of situation. For instance, in South Africa, we have rolling blackouts in place due to energy not being planned properly. So cell phone signal will drop just randomly throughout the day. So these kind of connectivity options are, I think, very powerful.
Indeed, yes. Thank you. Where is your coverage outside of South Africa, Nick?
We've got clients in Africa through Zambia, Mozambique, Namibia, South America. We ship a lot of probe sensors that are used in other companies' solutions. So our sensors are everywhere around the world. Not necessarily our software is being used always, but our sensors for sure. Obviously, the best result is when you use the original. Yeah, but we almost in every continent, and I think we just need to get a bit of coverage into Asia, and then we'll be truly global.
And is all your connectivity types NB-IoT, or do you work with 2G, 3G, LTE, CAT-M?
At the moment, we are on 3G and those other bandwidths, standard cellular connectivity, traditional maybe is the right word. And we also have moved, well, we also have had legacy systems that are radio-based and short-range radio-based systems as well.
Good. Also, Nick, a question for you. If you have any examples in general relating to the increase in production of percentage by the introduction of this technology and the importance of real-time data on crops in greenhouses.
I think production increases by moisture management are easily shown, and a few examples that we have of massive water savings of 50% by just monitoring the soil moisture and keeping it in mind. A farmer will often, without these kind of technologies, use a spade and a field test of just grabbing some soil and feeling its moisture in their hand. So these kind of technologies allow the precision to move into the equation, and saving water and increasing production are very, very common because of that, that management of the oxygen in the soil, which is often not considered by farmers. They just often, in many cases, they will rather run on the safe side and over irrigate, when in actual fact, for greater production, you need to manage that oxygen in the soil.
Okay. Another question here from Dan. How do you plan to do the SIM provisioning? I would say this one is for you, Michael.
I mean, maybe we can both tackle the question. On Sateliot's side, we act as a visiting profile on operator SIM card, right? So it's a standard roaming agreement. We use standard GSM and 3GPP interfaces, allowing the MVNOs and MNOs to integrate with us as any other roaming partner.
And from our side, well, yes, it would be another roaming profile that we would add to the same SIM module, and then it will fit into what Nick was commenting. While there, let us say, certainly with Sateliot, they would, in very remote regions, we would only have, let's say, the Sateliot connectivity, but closer to the cities or the less remote areas where there is terrestrial connectivity, there will be the option of the device selecting the most appropriate NB-IoT network available to them. And so this is part of the roaming agreement, a single SIM module, whether it is pluggable or embedded or integrated SIM module, would have multiple networks on it. And the device would select really the strongest network available. As it loses that network, it will then connect to the next available strongest network.
Pretty clear, pretty clear. Another one, how do you compensate for battery consumption?
I believe we covered that, but just maybe a high overview is supporting PSM. Satellite updates the almanac within the device, and on the satellite side, we have extremely efficient antennas.
Okay, guys. Another one asking us if we have any public satellite launching schedule.
Yes, of course. So we're gonna launch. So we have a satellite orbiting the Earth right now. It's for demos and testing. We're gonna launch the world's first LEO certified NB-IoT satellite in December this year using SpaceX, and in April 2023, we're gonna launch 4 more satellites. Okay, and with those 5 satellites is what we're gonna be using to kick off our commercial service.
Okay, that's interesting because we have another question here asking when will the service be available commercially?
3rd of July. I mean, so yeah, 3rd of July 2023, especially, and for our EAP partners, if you're interested, let us know a bit before that. Okay.
Okay. Well, we could wait 1 minute or 2 for if we see if other questions come.
Yeah, I wanted to apologize. I dropped out. We recently got a bunny, and the bunny decided to chew on my fiber optics cable while the webinar was happening, which obviously caused my laptop to disconnect. Okay.
Eat the bunny.
Yeah, there we go. It's not the first time it happened, so maybe I just had to put the bunny somewhere else.
Another one, integration between terrestrial Sateliot station and operation will be done only with operators, or it can be done with IoT companies?
So technically, I mean, Sateliot is a full transparent operator. Okay, what does that mean? That means we have our own core. Okay, so we have the technical capability of offering our own direct service to enterprise customers. Now, commercially speaking, the way we will go to market will be through operators. So it won't be Sateliot SIM card, it will be Pods Group SIM card, for example, right?
Okay. We still have 2 minutes. Let's see if we get more questions. I have an attendee asking if are we gonna getting the slides after the webinar, and which we will do.
Yes, we will make the slides
send to all the attendees. Okay. With your global footprint, what challenges do you have with supporting farmers, and how are these challenges being overcome?
I'm assuming that's for me. Yeah. So with so many countries that we do have systems in, it is a challenge. For the African clients, we travel to their farms with our own consultants. Internationally, though, we do have really good partnerships with many service providers that we use to give service to our clients. Luckily, most of our products are very straightforward and simple to use. So most troubleshooting can be done very easily by the farmers themselves, normally replacing a battery or checking that there's soil contact with the sensor is as far as we really need to go.
Very well. Narrowband IoT use scenarios are typically battery-powered devices and the data is sent uplink direction. What would be the impact on battery life when it communicates with a satellite? Okay. Steph, are you with us?
No impact. Okay, the main idea, yes, the main idea is that there won't be any direct or significant impact on battery consumption to the user equipment. So today the device pings information every couple of hours in the last 7 years. With the extension to NB-IoT to space, it will continue lasting 7 years if it continues sending the same rate of information, of course.
Okay. Okay, guys. Well, it's not possible to answer to all the questions, but thank you everyone for joining. If you want to conclude, Stefan, Nick, and Michael, if you want to give us a short message to all of our attendees, please feel free.
Well,
Okay, yeah. Okay, Michael. Yes, please go. I can finish off. Please go.
All right. Well, I'll just go ahead. Well, first, thank you for organizing this webinar, Sateliot. We are very pleased about our partnership with Sateliot and being able to reach, fulfill the needs, adding the clear value to the likes of DFM also, and especially organizations that have NB-IoT device in remote areas, but also devices even within Europe. I must admit, IoT coverage isn't smooth, I should say. It's bumpy, it's choppy, and I think that our partnership with Sateliot would give us a great advantage and truly offering solution to customers around the world. I do find that, in my experience, that there's been a lot of promise with NB-IoT, and so a lot of designers have designed NB-IoT, not realizing that actually the coverage, the terrestrial coverage, isn't really all there. But I think that together we will be offering a solution, and one thing is better than none. So thank you, and we look forward to growing this solution together.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, I would like to say thank you as well. It's been very interesting. I've learned a lot listening in also. For us, NB-IoT is a very exciting developing market for us. As Michael just said, one thing is better than none, and it can't be truer for many of our clients. So yes, I would love to see where we end up in a few years' time, and I'm sure DFM will be getting a lot of value from these partners. Thanks.
Oh, on my side, thank you so much, Michael. Thank you so much, Nick. Thank you so much, Hui, for hosting. I'm very happy to be here. One thing is better than none, and of course, we're going to be scaling to more than one very quickly, right? So the expectation is that within a year after commercial service, we will be able to serve devices once every hour. Again, I'm truly happy of having DFM within our early adopters program, and Michael, one of our pod group, and of course Michael representing them as a key partner for us to provide the hybrid global solution. And for companies out there which are interested in testing our service for free, which are interested in being among the first companies on earth to have narrowband non-terrestrial network commercial service, you will be able to apply directly after this webinar is done, just through a quick link, and we'll send you all the information. So please come talk to us, and let's discuss what we can do together. Thank you all, and have a great weekend.
Okay, thanks to everyone. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Stefan, and join us.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye. Ciao, guys.